Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Football Amigos. You have myself, Ayo, representing Arsenal, here to bring you and guide you in today's conversations with Mide about Manchester United and where they stand. So, amigos, you know yourselves. Say hi. We got Sam in the corner.
How we doing, ladies and gentlemen? I'm excited about this session to have Coach Mide talk to us about the new coach change and all of that.
Great to have you once again. And Mide, you man of the hour, the man on the hot seat. What's it like to be here, talk about Man United
Oh, it's
another
always a
time?
pleasure. Oh, absolutely, Ayo and Sam. It's always a pleasure to talk about my favorite team, Manchester United. Amigos, as always, good to have you all back. Sorry I wasn't there for the last episode, but I'm back. I'm back. Good to have you all here. Manchester United, a lot of changes, Ayo. I cannot wait to get into the details.
Definitely, and we're glad to have you back as well. We're putting you in the hot seat because there's been so many changes since we last spoke. Man United have fired a manager. They had an interim manager, Ruben Van Nistelrooy, and finally we know they've hired Amorim, who starts this break, and he's hopefully going to take the reins at Manchester United at least for the foreseeable future. So, as a fan, we wanted to bring you in and hear your perspective on some of the changes that have been going on and how they would affect the team. We have a set of questions. But before we start, Ruud van Nistelrooy, uh, he came in and he took over from Ten Hag, and he's done a wonderful job. However, we know that he is no longer going to be managing, obviously, because Amorim is back, but also he won't be the assistant coach moving forward. And so the last game he had was a farewell game. So do you think this is fair? I mean, he had a great record beating teams in the League Cup, in the Premier League, making Man United seem somewhat respectable again. How do you feel that his reward was to be shown the door?
To be honest, I was very impressed with Rude, especially with the situation Manchester United found themselves just sacking Ten Hag, and there was a lot of debate about that, but I think rightfully so. I think it was time for us to make a change and move on to a different chapter. Of course, I would personally say thank you, Ten Hag, for what you've done. You actually took 3 years to actually get this team back on a bus that's moving. Even though there were some bumps on the road, there's actually a bus that's moving forward now with some of the changes he's made. And of course, I always tell and amigos, you should write this down as a life lesson. Every experience is a good one, no matter what the results may have been, good or bad. Every experience should make you a better version of yourself. And I think, from a Manchester United perspective, we are at a better place to move forward. And that reigns moving over to Ruud van Nistelrooy, personally, I think was a great idea. I personally felt he should have been given the rest of the season. And the reason why I say so is because not just how he had started getting them to play for just not the badge, but for the club and its fans, but also getting them to be more driven and to actually perform and get results. Manchester United are not patient in terms of not getting results. Some clubs, their board or their fans are okay with not getting results for a while. In Manchester United environment and atmosphere, you have got to get results. And that's what Ruud did. He got wins. He was unbeaten the entire time he was there for the 4 games he had. Drew against Chelsea, beat Leicester twice, and won his not just the Carabao Cup game, but also the UEFA Cup game as well. So personally, he put himself on a shopping window after he left Manchester United, because now clubs are going to be looking for him and actually want him to coach. I was reading an article where he had applied to the Coventry. This is a Coventry City. It's a second division club in England, and a very rich one too as well. They're actually trying to make it to the Premier League. So I hope he gets the job. But I personally would have loved Root to stay for the rest of the season. I think there was something there where the players were playing for him. They were following his instructions. They are now performing more on the field. The style of play could be improved, but they're getting goals. They're getting goals, and you can only focus on what you see in terms of how they play on the field and the results as well.
So I know Sam is in the same boat as he should have stayed till the end of the season. But how about I put this question to you? They played Leicester City twice. We know that Leicester City are going to fight for relegation for this season, and it's going to be a miracle for them to stay up. They played Paok,
Mhm. Pauk, yeah, yeah.
Paok,
Mhm.
Pokaki, and I'm
People
joking.
call it that. Hey, I've heard someone
Like
call
that's a
it.
real city, so I don't want like
Yeah.
anyone to get offended. I'm just joking. Uh, but however, they're not considered tough competition, and that was a competitive game till it did not become competitive anymore. And Chelsea, well, when we played Chelsea, the big thing was how resolute the defensive performance was. The man of the match was Johnny Evans for what's it called, a defensive performance, and not necessarily offensive potency. Can the question be stated that this was actually incredibly smart for his status in the game to leave now before the games became challenging? And Man United and he leaves because like now he leaves with a positive feeling that he can capitalize off maybe later, but also positive feeling for his prospects as a top flight manager. Do you think that this is like actually a strategic or a positive thing to happen for him leaving
I,
now?
no, I think it was, and Sam, I'd love to hear your thoughts after this. I think it was a positive move, especially from an Ineos perspective. I think they learned from their mistakes. They didn't want to create the Solskjaer situation again, where he started winning a few games. We did say we're going to find someone else, but then the board decided not to, and give him the rest of the season, and then give him the whole job, and the wheels fell off. I think it was right for Ineos to go get Amorim at this point in time. And I personally have a feeling they had already had a conversation with him in the summer. It looked to me that it was a very quick decision, and quick decisions only come from proper preparation in the background. From a root perspective, I think it's a great idea that he left now. Unfortunately, it's sad that he had to leave in those circumstances because he was on the up, he was successful with the team. But I think it's good for him. I think he will find a job because the way he was performing, I don't see him as an assistant coach. I don't. I see him as a proper manager of a team, and he can build that team around his style of play and his identity, and hopefully they can execute that with their performances. I hope gets the commentary job. I'm actually will start watching commentary if he does, just to see, because um there's an American player that plays for that team that's on the U.S. soccer team as well. He's a striker. I can't remember his name now, but I know he's pretty decent as well too. So again, happy for Rude. I think it's a great time for him to leave the club. Amaran, looking forward to your questions about him. I'm very excited about this coach.
Wonderful. Sam, we haven't heard from you. Do you think it was a good choice on either the Ineos' side or Van Nistelrooy to leave now, or should he have waited to the end of the season?
Yeah, I think I like what you said, Mide. From the emotional point of view, I want Nistelrooy to stay, at least give him a chance to the end of the season. But I also think the board probably thought, hey, we already laser focused on getting a replacement. Let's do it. And I think originally they had Nistelrooy as an interim coach for a transition. So let's stick with the plan. Um, Again, from the emotional point of view, I want him to stay. I want him to be successful. But from the practical football point of view, I think it might be a little too early to put him in there. There's still so much expectation in the head right now. He's a great coach. I like his tactics, and kind of to go back to your point, Ayo, the games that he played, yes, you can still kind of feel the okay, this is the new coach behavior that you get whenever you change any coach. Especially a new coach that has got so much history with the club, and when you just get an old coach faced out, the coach that a lot of players didn't want to play for. So you can sense the change. When the game get intense, you're likely going to see a different result, and a lot of people are going to start calling names. And I don't want that for Van Nistelrooy. So it's good that he left. Hopefully, he gets the Coventry job. Coventry has a great history, by the way, and hopefully, it pushed them to the Premier League and it becomes a world class coach.
Yeah, they nearly beat us in last season in FA Cup. So yeah.
That was a good game. Yeah,
Mhm.
but his stock is high and brought back a little bit more optimism back into the club, a feeling of stability, at least for those 4 games. And so I'm pretty sure Man United fans are very grateful for the period he spent with them, no matter how short. So moving on, out with the old and in with the new. Ruben Amorim. the former coach of Sport Lisbon, has now been announced and has now started his tenure at Man United. Before we go into what you think his prospects are, how do you feel about him as a coach, Mide?
He's a very good coach. Some might say he is very pragmatic in how his style of play is. He doesn't deviate from that style of play too much, and don't blame him. It's brought him success, not just from a Sporting Lisbon perspective, where most people know, but doing my research on him, he started with Braga, and it's the same thing Braga did. These both clubs are in the Portuguese league, but Sporting is more successful than Braga in terms of their status in that league. But he coached there in Braga. He went on a sabbatical to travel to different clubs. Manchester United was one of those clubs. His idol is Jose Mourinho. He mentored him for so long when Mourinho was in Manchester United. So there was already some connection there even before now. And then after that, he traveled to some other European clubs just to learn and see how things are before he came back to the Portuguese league with Sporting. And for the past 7 years, has brought them 3 titles, which Sporting wasn't really at. And he's brought in a lot of young players, not just from the academy, but from the under 21s and under 23s into the first team. Some of those players are Quanda, which everyone is raving about right now from a Portuguese standpoint. Bruno was one of those that made Bruno even more popular after Bruno moved from the Italian club Udinese. Ugarte, the Uruguayan that Manchester United now has in the midfield, he brought him up to the status to make PSG buy him 2 seasons ago. But of course, when PSG changes coaches, they don't know his value. Now we're seeing that value again, and long may continue with Manchester United. His style of play is very simple. He's very proactive. He's very intense. He likes his players to be proactive on the ball and off the ball. He is very intense. He wants his players to be intense. He likes players that are fast. He likes players that cover ground. So some of the players we have at United, you might see a lot of changes, and rightfully so, if you cannot meet that expectation or that speed. He plays a 3-4-3 formation, very, very attacking. He uses a lot of wingers. If he needs to control the game, he might use wingbacks. But a lot of these players, especially with your profile, when I looked more into details about how he selects players, they're very quick, they're very intense, they're very aggressive, but they also make very good decisions on and off the ball. That's his style. He doesn't deviate from that. Some might think that's a weakness. I can understand that. But when a style of play and a formation has brought you success for this long, why change it? Why change it? I think we have seen him make changes in terms of personnel to change the game. One of the big players, Ayo and Sam, that he has right now that is on everyone's lips is Gyökeres. Gyökeres pretty much disgraced Man City in the Champions League. Just being honest, he did. He was playing better than supposedly the best striker on the planet with Erling Haaland. You know, when he's playing well, they both played in the same game, and look who shined, Gyökeres. And it was not because of how good Gyökeres is, because by the way, Gyökeres was one of those players that came from Coventry City at the age of 27. No one knew about him, but Amorim bought him from there and made him the player he is today. So, you know, Amorim loves intense players. He loves players that work hard. He has a system that he doesn't deviate from. If he has to make a change, it will be based on personnel.
That's a great insight, and I was actually going to speak about Gyökeres because he didn't seem very impressive during his time in England, and all of a sudden he seems like a world beater. I will say though, I didn't know much about Amorim. I know he was in the conversation 2 seasons ago about replacing some of the best teams in England, and he has done well. But this is a Premier League. This has to be probably the most competitive league in world football right now. It's a deep ocean filled with sharks and killers, and he is coming to a club, Man United, that is, in the most positive way, is still in the process of soul searching and is at a place, 14th in the position. However, 4 points outside of the top 4, so that doesn't seem like an insurmountable lead to claw back. What are your prospects about his performance this season, and what would you consider a successful finish, and what would you consider a failure for Amorim?
No, those are great questions, Ayo. From my perspective, coming in towards the middle of the season and the situation we find ourselves as a club on the field and somewhat off the field as well, success to me will be to get a cup and qualify for Champions League, meaning we have got to be better in the league. We cannot be Manchester United and be 14th place. That's not where we should be. So he needs, within the next 10 games, he needs to really get us back on track to top 8 at least, and then use the Europa League to try to get into Champions League at this point, and then maybe win a cup on the long run. In terms of, again, those are goals. In terms of on the field, we need an identity. This is one of the first things he mentioned in his interview. That team needs an identity. And what does an identity mean? A style of play. What is our style of play? I'm still asking myself questions after 10 had 3 years. For the past 2 years, we don't have one. We were meant to be possession-based, but he threw that away in the second season and reverted back to whatever happens, Moments FC. So I think Amorim's success on the field is to bring an identity and a style of play that will be consistent and getting the right players and profile to execute those instructions. And whoever doesn't want to do that, I have heard that doesn't he doesn't waste time in making decisions, especially when they're tough decisions. In terms of prospect, I think getting the fans on behind him, getting the club behind him, getting the players behind him, I think those would be the big prospects to either his successes or fails. Now, failure, what that looks like is us ending in 10th place or below that, not getting a cup. And some might say because he's coming mid-season, maybe we give him that pass. But from his interview, he is demanding success right away. And that should send a message to the players. You have got to step up. This is one of those coaches that you're not going to get a second chance if you don't step up. He will give you the chance, but if you don't take it, you will be out of the door.
That's incredibly, and I feel like that's brave. Personally, I'm at the perspective of I completely understand why Ruud van Nistelrooy was let go or transitioned out, because you need a season to embed Amorim's principles, right? While you're figuring out if the squad is worth it. And so you're trying to figure out if this is the way we're going to play and we're going to go this way, who is going to make the cut and who's not. And so in that respect, I think with a better squad, I think top four is out of the table completely. And I'm not saying that to be harsh. Is that you just say Liverpool right first. You say Man City second. Then I can start writing up names: Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, Newcastle, Brighton, and they are much stronger positions in terms of squads, philosophy, togetherness. And so to ask from him to overhaul that with the players he has is going to be a big ask. Because my biggest, because you said this at the beginning of this interview, you were like, we don't tolerate bad results as Man United fans. And looking at the season of, if you're in transition can be painful. And if Amorim is the person, I almost feel like he should be given a wide berth to see what is needed versus not. I mean, you don't want Man United to play pitiful. And you mentioned you do need an identity, and that must be clear. And there is a set style of play that is conducive for challenging for the Premier League. Because also his principles have not been tried in the Premier League. Ten Hag's problem was he was trying so hard to get his philosophy that worked in Ajax to work in the Premier League with no success. And so does it from that perspective, does it make sense that the fans need to give him space? Because I think like if you're in a place of like, oh, he has to start winning again, and he does have to start winning, but that he has to do X, he has to do Y, the pressure valve, which has been released, especially not just with Ten Hag leaving, and with the buffer that was Van Nistelrooy, goes away, and 5 games from now we're back in that conversation cycle. We're back in that, what's it called, that media cycle. We're back in that toxicity cycle that leads to impatience, and you have a great, maybe even a generational manager that can't get the ball rolling. How do you feel about that?
No, I agree with you. We have to be patient as fans, and I employ not just our Manchester United Amigo fans, but fans all around the world. We have to be patient. I don't think the media will, because that's just the media. They're not going to be patient with him. We have to give him patience, because that, again, this is another reason why I would have preferred him coming at the end of the season, so that he has a preseason, he has a chance to review the players, he has a chance to review the season, whatever outcome the season ends up being, reviews that and be able to then make decisions, allowing Ruud to take over for the rest of the season. But I think Ineos, they're at that point where they could not take that risk, especially because of where they are on the table, hence why they pulled the trigger. And I support them either way. We have to be patient with him. It's not going to, that team, and you mentioned this in a couple of episodes ago when we talked about why Manchester United wasn't doing well. Amigos, like, share, and subscribe. Go back to that video and listen to what insights Ayo mentioned. And Sam, you mentioned something critical about it too. That team and what we are trying to play in terms of style, that team's personnel and profile cannot execute it. That's why Ten Hag reverted back from the Ajax way that we were begging for to what we have today, which is pretty much Moments FC or counter-attack. They can't do it. They cannot do it. And if you have to teach them to do it, it is going to take time. They can learn it, but it's going to take time, and you may have to make different selections to players that can actually do it. And Slot, for example, for Liverpool, I think the leadership group at Liverpool made a smart move with selecting that type of coach. Very similar to Jurgen Klopp. The only difference with them is Jurgen Klopp is rock and roll, and Slot likes the calm possession and then hit you when you least expect it. And it's very consistent with him. He does have his aggression, don't get me wrong. I've heard stories of him getting on players when they don't do well, but very similar coaches. Amorim, on the other hand, it seems to me that Manchester United is going for an intense combination style of play. That's why they got him. It's going to take time for the players we have to be able to adapt to that and start executing. But as we know, it's Manchester United. they're not going to give him time. We'll see.
Yeah, caught between a rock and a hard place as usual, but we're excited. I mean, we have great talents. What's your midfielder? I keep forgetting his name. He's always on the cost. Mano.
Maybe.
You have the striker. You have wingers who are young and can be coached. And you see what he has done in the transform in the short time he's been in Sport Lisbon and the transformations he's engineered. You think of Lenny Euro coming back. You think of Diallo. You think of even Diallo himself. He has a lot of potential. And the Argentinian. There's a lot of potential. Even the striker. I think you can you can see a lot more to come from. I forget his name. The
Xerxes?
No, not Xerxes. Sorry.
Holland?
Holland, yeah. Where it's like you can see there's a lot to come from here. Like what can a great coach do? Because for me, I feel like Ten Hag has got to the point where he was just surviving. And I think if you give what's it called, Amorim some buffer to actually put in work in these players, these could be you could already have the backbone for tremendous dominance and competition already within the squad. And so it's interesting to see what he can bring out of the players. But I will say it is exciting times again because we know something that has failed, but we have hope for just explosive growth and just a rejuvenation of the spirit and the history and the ethos that is Man United. So what is your prediction at the end of the season? Amorim comes out and they win every game now and they win the league with 10 points? Or do you have any more realistic predictions for how the season is going to turn out for Man United?
Definitely not the first one you mentioned. It's gonna be more realistic, but I'm optimistic. I would keep it simple. I just want us to play well on the field. I want players to start fighting for their time and their badge and the fans. I want to see more goals. I want to see a defensive play. I want to see Manchester City get beat by Emeron again. I would like to see that. And most importantly, though, I would like to see how we play teams outside of the top 5. That would determine if he can quickly install his philosophy into this team for them to execute. Like, to be honest, Annie Sloth, I keep using him, even though I don't like Liverpool. Sorry, amigo Sam. I keep using Liverpool because that implementation of Annie Sloth into that team is very surprising. Some people might say, oh, well, it's Klopp's work. No, it takes a coach to understand where a team is, the little things he has to add to it to even make it better. That's what I'm looking for. When he plays the teams outside of the top 5, I will be very closely watchful of those results and how we play in performance-wise to see if he's going to do well. And if not this season, definitely next season.
Wonderful. Well, we appreciate you bringing your insights into this issue. We love talking about Man United. Sometimes for the wrong reasons, but hopefully moving on in the future will be all for the best reasons. Thank you, amigos, once again for joining us for just a thought-provoking and insightful show with our main Man United guy, Mide. Please remember to like and subscribe and just keep following us along this journey while we just support the teams we love and just discuss soccer. So thank you, amigos, for joining us. Thank you, amigos, for being in here. This is Ayo saying bye. Take care, guys.
Thank you, amigos. Before we, okay. So the reason why you guys are so accurate with your analysis and all of these good things is, and you guys can guess my club based on my first name initial. Your first name is Ayo, Arsenal, A for Arsenal. Man U, Mide. What club would I be if I were to go to my first name initial? What club do you guys think?
Southampton.
That's exactly what I thought of when I was thinking of this. So you guys' club selection are divine. That's why your prediction, your analysis are always on point, just like we just saw earlier. So I would have been Southampton if I had gone with maybe I was Southampton divinely. Wait, they were red too. Oh wait, a lot of Liverpool player came from Southampton.
Yeah. Liverpool from Southampton, yes. And Ayo, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Southampton close to Merseyside? Is it south of Merseyside?
Maybe. I thought Southampton was coastal. I can look it up. Also, the player you're thinking about was Tajiri Wright. I was trying to sneak it back in for Coventry, but I couldn't find the space to do that.
Yeah.
I think Southampton is coastal.
Okay.
I'm not sure they're like south because that's someone else. Mm-hmm. Hi, amigos. This is Ayo from Football Amigos here to entertain you. Oh.
Hey, I want to include that in the. I want to include that in the show.
They're like, what happens when you ask Ayo to host? They're like, Ayo's a great host. I was like, let me show you the evidence. Take 575. So, can
All
we
right.
just let's do it again. Let's do it again.
All right.